Welcome back to the Week Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Owen, and we are back from a week off vacation I took to celebrate the best holiday all year, Thanksgiving. And in honor of that, and before we start getting into some more of the deep dives into players, now that the CFB season is over and we're going into the bowl season and we're getting more of confirmation of how the top of the draft is going to look, I'm going to go through, and in honor of the best holiday ever, Thanksgiving, I'm going to go through and tell you what each team in the NFL is thankful for this far into the season. Before I get into that, though, make sure you go check out the Dynasty Index. It is a website me and Caleb, KilPro88, have been working on. It covers everything from every player that you want to get from Dynasty Fantasy Draft, as well as covers, it's going to have write-ups on all the draft-eligible players that we can get to in this draft class. Right now, I think we have 110, or probably more than that, since we have divided some of the position groups up. I know I personally have done 110, so he has some more. We're hovering around like 150 right now between the two of us. So in-depth, constantly updated player profiles, and yeah, they're just very in-depth, and we're getting some stats to go along with them. Some unique stats that are one of our people we know who is developing some new ways to look at numbers and things like that for football. So if you're interested, message him on Twitter, DM him on Twitter at KillPro88, or you'll just see his email on the ad in the screen while I say this if you're watching it on YouTube. But further than that, let's just get right into this list. We're going to do alphabetical order of the teams, so I'm sorry, Washington. You're going to have to wait a little bit for this, but we're going to go through and pick one thing that every team should be thankful for this far in the season. First up, we have Arizona Cardinals, and we're going to say veteran leadership is what they're thankful for. The Arizona has done so well and has won games despite not having their quarterback and the number one wide receiver for a couple weeks now. And I think it chalks out to a lot of the people they brought in, with whether it's J.J. Watt, A.J. Green, having Chandler Jones on the roster. They've come in, and these guys who have played in this league for a while, have gone to the playoffs, have played on good teams, have played on bad teams. They are holding this team together and really helping them rally and stick together and playing as a team. I wasn't the biggest Cliff Kingsbury guy, but I think these dudes, these high-character guys, especially with J.J. Watt, coming in and just being those locker room presences that this team needs, has really helped them stay on track and win games despite all the injuries. And now they're one of the top seeds in the NFL, and they're set up nicely mental-wise to go into the playoffs and succeed there despite their quarterback and their coach and the majority of their younger players not having any experience in the playoffs. They have guys who have gone deep, who have won the whole thing on the roster, and who have just years and years of experience there. So I think that the veteran leadership they've brought in this season has really helped them gel and stick through all these trials and tribulations the season has thrown at them. Next up, we have Atlanta Falcons. They're thankful for Kyle Pitts. This is even more so because of Calvin Ridley leaving for personal reasons. Kyle Pitts was my best player in my draft class last year. I don't know if Atlanta should have taken him. I thought it was a good fit because you had he could fill that Jonnu Smith role that Arthur Smith had run in his offense when he was in Tennessee. And he's way more talented than Jonnu Smith is. And he had a slow start, but he's been, I think he's number 5 fantasy tight end right now in non-PPR leagues. I don't know what he is in PPR leagues. And he's just been so good. He's good. It's kind of hot and cold with the offense because the offense itself has been hot and cold. But he's clearly their best weapon. Even when Calvin Ridley is there, I think he's still their best weapon. And him picking up his season as soon recently in the past like 5-6 weeks has really helped mitigate the loss of Calvin Ridley. They're still not winning games, but they at least know they have one amazing offensive weapon that they can rely on in games, who is still with them right now on the team. So whenever they decide to bring in a rookie quarterback, they have plenty of weapons, and one of the best weapons in the league for the seasons and seasons to come on their roster to help ease that player in. Next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm going to say they're thankful for a good coaching staff. Now, Baltimore has gone through a lot this season. Injuries to all their starting running backs, injuries to Marcus Peters and their starting corner, and Lamar Jackson's been sick a couple times, and they've had to rely on backup quarterback, and they've thrown 4 picks in a game and still won. So all these factors and all these things that would kill most teams. The Ravens, who are always been and always will be a well-coached team, Jim Harbaugh has that team just is John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh? I think John Harbaugh is at Michigan. Jim Harbaugh has had this team in a great position despite all this different stuff that's happening. And unlike Arizona, which I attribute more to the veteran leadership there, Jim Harbaugh, I'm going to keep saying Jim Harbaugh. I'm probably wrong. Let me click a quick Google search to see which Harbaugh brother coaches the Baltimore Ravens, because I don't want to be wrong, even though, and especially if I'm applauding him. Apologies to John Harbaugh, the coach of the Baltimore Ravens. My bad. Jay Harbaughs are easy to mix up. But unlike coaching Arizona, where I'm less inclined to believe that's the issue, or that's the thing that's holding them together, I think John Harbaugh has proven he's a great coach. He's been there for forever. He has won Super Bowls himself, and he has coached amazing teams. So I think that he is the glue that's holding this team together despite all the issues that a team like them and Arizona have faced this season with injuries and the such. So similar to Arizona, but I think it's more contributed to their coaching staff. So the Baltimore Ravens are thankful for their coaching staff, keeping them together and keeping them with their best record in the AFC right now. The Buffalo Bills are most thankful for their re-emerging defense. The Buffalo Bills have a lot of issues, specifically with their run game and their blocking on the offensive line. Hopefully, with getting Spencer Brown back and John Feliciano back eventually, the line can do better, but there's still some things they're not the best they can be. They can do some upgrades there. The running game is non-existent. They're basically a one-trick pony on offense. But unlike last year, where they were also a one-trick pony on offense, but just teams weren't ready for that one trick, their defense has come back to 2019, 2018 McDermott form. And it's probably the best defense they've fielded under McDermott so far in his career. They've been phenomenal. I know they just lost Trey White, but the way McDermott has coached his defense up is it's next man up. Despite Trey White being super talented, all the corners know what they're doing when they're out there. It's a lot of intelligence based. It's not really a lot of man coverage, skill based. It's more, do you know your leverages in coverage? Are you able to stay disciplined in your zone, things like that? So I think that despite it being a huge loss talent-wise, the defense is still going to be pretty decent against the pass. They're going to let up more passing touchdowns than they have previously, but I think that overall they won't fall off that hard. But yeah, their defense coming out and reemerging, their pass rush finally waking up a little bit. It's kind of calmed down a little bit in the past few weeks, but Leslie Frazier is so good as a defensive coordinator, and the defense finally coming back to form after a season where I don't know what was wrong with them. I don't know if it was a lack of talent on D-line, if it was other COVID injuries stuff, like both linebackers were out for the first few weeks, so I don't know what the issue was, but they've reemerged, and pairing that with a still very good pass offense, I think is going to help this team go deep in the playoffs, if they can go deep in the playoffs, being healthy and all. Carolina is thankful for their young defensive talent because this season has gone down the drain quickly. They started out hot, but Sam Darnold was not ever playing phenomenal. He was a better rusher than he was passer. But the one through line, and now with the addition of veteran presence like Stephon Gilmore, is that their defense is stepping up. Hassan Reddick, Jeremy Chin, they have Donta Jackson, and Brian Burns, and now they have Yeturgos Matos. I don't know how he's been doing. I just know he's another player they have loaded on defense. J.C. Horn has been hurt, but they still have him. They have C.J. Henderson. They have all this good defensive talent that they can build on. And next year, if they just get someone who can play quarterback and solidify the offensive line, and they can get a quarterback who can be even if he's like a Teddy Bridgewater. They had Teddy Bridgewater on this team with this good of a defense. I think they could have won more games this year than they did last. So it's a great starting block, and you always, especially when you're rebuilding, you always want to try to start with the defense. Those will keep you in games, and then build the offense after that. Especially when you have offensive gurus like Matt Rule and Joe Brady on your team. So the offense will come, but they're very thankful for having their defensive talent already locked in place. The Chicago Bears are thankful for Tyler Huntley because he beat them as a Ravens quarterback and has allowed them to most likely fire Matt Nagy. I never had an issue with Matt Nagy. I always thought that he was set up to fail in Chicago, but they need a new look on life, and I think that game, even if they don't fire him in the middle of the season, that game and that loss to Tyler Huntley has basically sealed the deal on Nagy as the coach there. So the Bears can be thankful for Tyler Huntley for getting Matt Nagy out of there, and hopefully they can hire the right coach to bring the best out of Justin Fields. Hopefully another offensive-oriented head coach. That way they can bring in like a good defense coordinator and just have an overall well-balanced coaching staff. Next up, Cincinnati is thankful for modern medical science. I originally had this as Jamar Chase, but it was kind of obvious. I'm changing it to modern medical science because an ACL tear used to be just like a death sentence. A player would get an ACL tear, they'd take a year and a half to come back from, and they were never the same ever again. And Joe Burrow has not only come back and recovered well from his knee injury, which was more than just an ACL tear. He looks better than ever, and the offensive line is gelled, and he's got all these weapons, including Chase, and it's just a miracle that the science in medicine nowadays with surgery, and especially with these high-end players who can pay for these super expensive procedures and get the best of the best doctors, that they can come back from these devastating knee injuries and be better than they were before the injury. And if Joe Burrow was not playing as good as he was right now, or is right now, I don't think they'd be even close to a playoff spot, or even close to fighting for the division lead in the AFC North. So I think Joe Burrow's knee is what the whole season was riding on, and the fact that their team doctors or whoever they got to do the surgery did it, and he's bounced back so well, is what they should be most thankful for. Cleveland is thankful for a strong offensive line. Their defense has struggled in spots, and Baker Mayfield hurt himself diving to make a short interception tackle. Their season has just gone off the rails, but the one thing they can say they have is one of the elite and probably the best offensive line in the NFL, talent-wise. And it just shows that, because D'Ernest Johnson is a 100-yard rusher for them. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, no matter who you throw back there, they rush the ball so well, and they can win games on that, just purely on that. Everything, their defense, their quarterback, everything can be going terribly, but they can win a game because they just get so well blocking. And if they had probably a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield back there, they'd definitely be a Super Bowl contender. Because imagine if Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or any these elite talent quarterbacks had that offensive line in front of them, they'd be unstoppable. So they can at least hang their hat on that and try to find that as their thing to be thankful for in this rough season. Dallas, the Cowboys, especially after these past few weeks where they've lost 3 or 4, are thankful for a weak division. Now, I know the Eagles have been firing back, but I still think they're bipolar and not at all secure in their offensive talent yet. I don't know if Jalen Hurts is the guy. Their defense needs retooling. They're at least a year or two away to compete for the division. Washington won the division last year and are in a wild card spot as of right now, but no one's really afraid of Washington. Taylor Heineke is a great backup quarterback. He's a subpar starter. So if the Cowboys were in a division like the NFC West, or even the AFC East, like with the Patriots and Bills, or if they were in the NFC South, I don't think they'd have nearly as good of a record as they have now, and would probably be having to fight for a 6th wildcard spot, because they'd have a bunch of other losses on the record, and they would not win the division in those leagues. So I think their record is inflated a little bit. I know they beat the Patriots. I know they beat some good teams, but now they've recently been losing to good teams, and they're able to just beat up on the really weak teams in their division, and all those teams are really middling 8 and 9, 9 and 8 kind of teams, and will have to really find something special to win the division. So it's really Dallas's to lose. It's been Dallas's to lose since the beginning of the season. So I mean, if they were in a stronger division, I think they'd be in a much different place and being talked about a lot differently than they have been. Denver is thankful for promising building blocks, because if Denver had an elite quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, they'd be a Super Bowl contender. Their defense has been great. They have good corners. They traded Von Miller, but they still have a good pass rush. Their linebackers are pretty good. Offensive line is half decent. Dalton Risner is pretty good. Garrett Bowles has turned a corner in his career. Lloyd Cushenberry is a decent center. They got some pieces on the offensive line, and they have great weapons. With Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. I know Jerry Jeudy was hurt. He's coming back, though. They have running backs from Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is breaking out. They have Noah Fant. They have Tim Patrick, who they just signed to a $10 million per year deal. So, I mean, they have all these weapons. They have a good offensive line. They have a good defense. All they need is a quarterback. So they can be thankful that within next year, when there's going to be Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers on the market, and God knows who else is going to be available as a quarterback or veteran quarterback, they can hang their hats on, okay, we're a Super Bowl level roster, just need to find that one player. They need to find one player out of 22 positions. Only one is what's holding them back. So if they can find that one guy, they'll be able to make some noise next season. So they're thankful for that. Okay, Detroit is thankful for Kayvon Thibodeau. I know there's been some conversations, and I will have the conversation about him versus Aiden Hutchinson at the top of the draft, but Detroit is very thankful for elite talent at elite positions with elite positional value, which is edge rusher. So you got even whether Thibodeau or Hutchinson, you can go either or, and you're getting phenomenal value at that edge rusher position, which is one of, if not the best. It's a top two, if not the number one most important position to draft high in a draft class outside of like quarterback. So I'm going to say they're thankful for just the high-end talent at the edge rusher position now. The Green Bay Packers are thankful for Aaron Rodgers. We saw what this team looked like without Aaron Rodgers against the Chiefs with Jordan Love. Now, they almost won, and their defense has been pretty good, but the defense is banged up. And I feel like if they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, even though the defense was playing pretty well, they wouldn't have won half the games they won this season. So despite Aaron Rodgers making all this drama and all this stuff, so you might be like, oh, why are they thankful for Aaron Rodgers? Because they're currently probably the best team in the NFL because Aaron Rodgers. So he's going out on a high note, and they should be thankful for that because they're at least getting one last good season out of him. Houston Texans are thankful for having their own first-round pick this season. They're just terrible, and they're going to be picking in the top 5, top 3 most likely. And, they've previously been, I think it was last year, 2 seasons ago, it was last season, where they were picking their pick was owned by the Dolphins in Larry Tunsil trade. So I feel like now they're bottomed out, and they should have had a top 5 pick last year, but they didn't. They're very thankful for now finally having their first overall pick to be able to grab a generational edge rusher, like I said, who's probably going to be there. Maybe a quarterback, but I doubt it. There's some really good offensive tackles they can grab. So there's a lot of really good value in the top 5, top 10 in this draft, and they finally have their own pick, which is good because they're terrible. Indianapolis is thankful for Jonathan Taylor. 5 touchdowns against the Bills. I had to watch that game. And it was awful, and I'm glad I didn't go. Ruined my 4-year anniversary. It didn't ruin it. It's not a good anniversary, but on my 4-year anniversary with my girlfriend, I had to watch Jonathan Taylor score 5 touchdowns. He was on my fantasy team, and I still lost. It's kind of similar to the Derrick Henry effect for Tennessee, but I'm just saying that the Colts didn't have Jonathan Taylor and had to hang their hat on Marlon Mack as their running back, and then Carson Wentz winning them games. They would not be winning as many games as they have been. So, Jonathan Taylor, that's one's pretty obvious. Okay, this one's funny. Jacksonville Jaguars are thankful for Twitter because I personally think they should fire Urban Meyer after the season, and I think it's going to be because of the public outcry is going to build and build and build. And I think a lot of that is because of Twitter. The whole story about him not flying back with the team, getting grinded on by the chick in the bar, and it's just like Twitter blew this up, and people are trying to forget about it, but you're never going to be able to escape that. And I think because of that, and because of people posting that video on Twitter and sharing around, and really getting everyone's attention on it, that Urban Meyer is not long for Jacksonville. So thank Twitter, Jacksonville, for when Urban Meyer is finally gone from your team, because he sucks. I'm sorry. And this is coming from somebody whose team lost to you. And it's just, Urban Meyer is just so bad. Kansas City Chiefs are thankful for the AFC West's self-destruction. The Chiefs have been putting it together recently this past few weeks, but imagine if the Chargers were consistently good like they were in the beginning of the season, or if the Broncos had a decent quarterback, or if the Raiders didn't have a Henry Ruggs-style level car crash of a season. I don't know if that's too soon, but I'm sticking with it. I'm a dick. And if the Chargers only lost 2 games, if they were 9-2 now, 8-2, something like that, 10-2, whatever the record would be, and the Chiefs were still where they are, 8-4, 8-4. They're so lucky that all the teams that were doing good at the early in the season from the AFC West fell off a cliff face. With the Broncos and the Raiders and the Chargers, they were all looking amazing. It looked like it was going to be a tight race because the Chiefs weren't playing as well, which they're still not playing the best ball they could be playing. But like I said, all the teams in their division have fallen off and aren't really threats to win the division anymore. So they kind of lucked out with that and lucked into an easy playoff spot now. The Las Vegas Raiders are thankful for Derek Carr. Derek, cool, no controversy Carr, put up MVP numbers at the beginning of the season, is consistently one of the top 16, borderline, getting up to top 12 quarterback in the NFL. He's steady, doesn't create controversy. In this one season of a whole turbulent controversy, I think that having a guy who's that good on the football field and who doesn't create extra unneeded drama is something that the Vegas Raiders really need, and I think he solely is keeping them in the playoff hunt because I'm still not that confident in their defense, and he's the quarterback they need as of right now to right the ship. The Los Angeles Chargers are thankful for Justin Herbert's rookie contract because they still have another season of Herbert being cheaper than his talent level really surmises. So they're going to be able to stack this next year's roster. So they're going to have a year 2 of their coach and their quarterback being together. They'll be able to add more talent around them, bring back Mike Williams, and not have to deal with the cap hit issue that's going to be Herbert's contract in the future. So next year is the year if they want to capitalize on it and probably make a run to the Super Bowl. Next year's the year because of Herbert's contract. So I know everything's falling apart right now, and you just lost the Broncos by 15. But I think next season is going to be the season where if you're going to make a run for it on Herbert's rookie deal, it's going to be that year. Or if you're going to make a run for it with the team you have now, and without having to make some budget cuts and draft it well, it's going to be next year because of Herbert's contract. The Los Angeles Rams are thankful for a hot start because they've looked like hot garbage in the past few weeks, losing 3 straight. If they didn't come out and win, 5, 6 of their first 7 games, something like that, if they didn't come out and win all those games, they probably would be outside looking in for the NFC playoffs right now. I know the bottom half of it, like the 7th seed of Washington, they're better than Washington, but I'm just thinking if they lost maybe another 1 or 2 games in that early stretch of the season where they came out, were looking like the Super Bowl favorites, would people take them seriously as a Super Bowl contender anymore? Or there's so many things that could have went differently, especially with how they've cooled off now. If they didn't start out so hot, we were looking at the Rams Mayday, this is not going well. What is happening over there, kind of thing. But because of that, it's kind of mitigated some of the damage, even though we are still poking holes at them. The Miami Dolphins are thankful for a weak QB class. They are going to have a high-end pick in this draft class based on how they've been playing. Maybe they can turn around and get up to the middle teens area, but that's what this is talking about. If they can put together some wins, and if they're not sold on Tua, and they think, maybe we can grab a quarterback in this draft, most of the top quote-unquote quarterbacks are going to be around in the teens for this draft. It's similar to the 2018 draft where Dwayne Haskins was at 15. You had Drew Lock in the second round kind of thing, where these players who people could think be franchise quarterbacks are going to be available in the area where the Dolphins are going to be picking. They don't have to trade up or be picking the top 5 to get one of the first quarterbacks off the board in this draft class. So if that's where they want to go with this, they want to move off of Tua, this is the draft class to do it because they'll still be able to win games and get a quarterback in the draft. Minnesota is thankful for good special teams play. Finally. They've won, I believe it was 6, or all their wins had been 1-score games or something. I can't remember what the stat was. But they won all their games by last-minute kicks and things like that. Majority of them. Last-minute field goals, things like that, where in previous seasons, the curse of the Vikings, they would have just missed them or blew them or choked or something. They would have not been able to convert all these things. So they're finally getting good, consistent special teams play, and they're winning games because of it. Now, They're probably thankful for Alexander Madison right now because of Dalvin Cook's injury, but I think that right now that getting those wins with those close games, that they can show that they can be clutch with their special teams at the end of games is more important than that. The New England Patriots are thankful for their fantastic offensive line scouting. Now, I know they just benched Michael Onwenu, but he's been decent for them, and they just have been able to field a good offensive line for the past 20 years. And Mac Jones, being the type of player he is, not very mobile, he's gone out there and he's been able to succeed because of how well this offensive line has been playing. He's been able to sit in the pocket, not have to move around all that much, to play the take-it-dunk game, throw it deep because he has time. And I think that if he didn't have the offensive line he's had, and the New England Patriots weren't as good at scouting professional or amateur-wise offensive linemen to pick up and add to their team, then I think this would be a totally different season than what people are seeing right now, and they would not be on as much of a hot streak. Despite bringing in Mac Jones, I don't think Mac Jones is the catalyst. I think it's the offensive line keeping him clean is what's really pushing that team to win as much as they are. The New Orleans Saints are thankful for the injury cop-out, which means this season has been terrible. And it probably would have been terrible even if everybody was healthy anyway. I didn't really have much hope for the Jameis Winston Saints. And now they can just blame it on having injuries to all their top players, their top defensive players, their tight end, their quarterbacks, all these players that are out with injury. Wide receiver Michael Thomas has been out. Alvin Kamara has been banged up. They have this cop-out, like, the season was terrible because of injuries. We'll just reset, we'll just add more players, and then we'll go at it next season. So now they won't be as disappointed as the season being as bad as if they were all healthy and had the same equivalently bad season, maybe a slightly better season, if they were fully healthy, they'd have to look inside and be like, okay, well, what's wrong? How do we fix this? But because of the injuries, they can just say, we can just reload, and then if it doesn't work again, then they got to start worrying. But for right now, there's not much worry for Saints fans because they can just blame it on injuries. The New York Giants fans are thankful, or New York Giants team in general, are thankful for the Chicago Bears because the Chicago Bears gave their pick up to move for Justin Fields. So now the Giants have 2 top 10 picks because Chicago has not played well. And yeah, simple as that. Chicago gave the Giants their pick, and Chicago has not been playing well. Same goes for the next team, New York Jets. Super thankful for the Seattle Seahawks. They have 2 top 5 picks right now. The Seahawks pick is actually worse than the Jets pick, or better, I guess. The Seahawks record has their pick ahead of the Jets pick. So the Jets pick 4, I think the Seahawks pick 3. And the Seahawks gave their pick to the Jets in the Jamal Adams trade. So the Jets are just dancing on the Seahawks' grave right now, and they're very thankful for Seattle. And one more time, it's kind of funny that all 3 of these ones are in a row. Philadelphia's super thankful for Miami, because Miami's pick, we were just talking about how they're going to be picking the teens. Miami's pick is the San Francisco 49ers pick. The actual Dolphins pick, since they've been hot and cold, mostly cold this season, the Philadelphia Eagles are ecstatic because the Dolphins could give them 2, maybe even 3 top 10 picks. So they're going to be so happy that if the Dolphins can keep, sucking. So there we go. 3 in a row. Giants are thankful for Chicago. Jets are thankful for the Seahawks. And the Eagles are thankful for Miami for giving them first-round picks and then blowing it the next season. Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be thankful for a strong defensive talent. I know T.J. Watt has been banged up this season, and Devin Bush hasn't been playing all that well, but their defense is what's winning them games. The defense is what won them the Buffalo game. The defense has kept them in a lot of games they shouldn't have won, or kept them in games that they should have been blown out in. Their offense is not winning them games. Big Ben is not winning them games. Najee Harris is the only thing on that offense that really scares anybody. So I think their defense is what's winning them a lot of games, and that's why they're thankful for their strong defensive talent. Next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers, who are thankful to be no longer playing in Arizona. They had to play a lot of home games in Arizona last year because of the COVID pandemic rules in California and Santa Clara. They're back home now, and even though their season's been kind of a roller coaster up and down, they should still be thankful that they can play some home games and actually be in their home stadium. And it's just a thing where this one's more wholesome than the other ones, where I'm not going to make a lot of jokes about, they suck. No, they actually get to play in front of their own home fans, and their team gets to actually not have to travel for every single game. And I'm just very happy that they're able to work that stuff out and be able to play home games there. So they're thankful for that, and I'm also thankful for that for them and their fans. Seattle Seahawks are thankful for Russell Wilson's trade market. Now, Russell Wilson hasn't been playing all that great as of recently, but you know that Russ is going to fetch at least, 2 first-round picks at the minimum. That's what Jamal Adams got. So you got to maybe get 3 for Russ, or 3 a player, 2 ones, 2 twos, something like that. They're going to get a lot. They're going to get the bag for Russell Wilson. And whether that's going to be from a team that has multiple first-round picks this season, like the Eagles, or like the Giants or something like that, or if it's going to be someone who's just going to give up, a couple years in a row futures. But especially for a team in Seattle who gave up their first-round pick for Jamal Adams this year to the Giants, they could use as many first-round picks as they can get this season because they don't have their own, which is going to be super high up from how based on they've been playing. And they just need to rebuild, and not having first-round picks is going to be rough with that. So Russell Wilson's trade value is going to be able to help them recoup some of those assets and be able to actually rebuild now that he's going to be gone, because he's not coming back. There's no way he's coming back. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are thankful for a playoff Tom Brady, because right now they be struggling, and despite that, Tom Brady always seems to turn it on in the high-pressure situations. They're making the playoffs because they're going to win a division, but I think that the struggles they're going to be having right now it's going to be kind of like last season, where they struggled most of the season. They were 11-5. They won 11-5, but they struggled a lot. But as soon as the postseason came around, Brady really became Brady. He turned it on, and that's just I'm assuming that's what's going to happen again this year. And the Bucs fan base and the Bucs team shouldn't be stressed out too much right now. They know that they have the GOAT, and he works best in the playoffs. So they're kind of just waiting for him to turn it on when that time comes around. Tennessee is thankful for a potential Derrick Henry return for the playoffs. Tennessee is most likely locked up a playoff spot, whether it's in the division lead, which they still hold over Indianapolis, which they've swept Indianapolis. Indianapolis has to have a better record than them overall. But even if they don't win a division, they probably are going to have a wild card spot with wins over Buffalo and things like that. Those kind of tiebreakers. They're going to have, they're most likely going to make the playoffs. And Derrick Henry is on pace to be back for the playoffs, I believe week 1 of the playoffs. So they're going to be able to come back mostly full strength, and Derrick Henry will have a couple weeks of not rushing the ball. He'll be fresh. He'll be ready to go. He'll be ready to prove everybody wrong and be able to come out there and show that he's still got it even after this injury. So Derrick Henry is going to be a man possessed in the playoffs, and Tennessee is going to be thankful for that. And finally, the Washington football team is thankful for Taylor Heinicke. Tell me how many teams in this league could lose their starting quarterback week 1 and call upon their backup and probably play. I doubt they'd be playing a lot better offensively with Fitzpatrick at quarterback than Heinicke. And Heinicke came in to almost beat the Bucs last season in the playoffs, and he beat them in the regular season this season. Heinicke has played better than he's the best backup quarterback in this league. I will easily say that, and I guarantee that the offense for Washington would not be any bit better than with Fitzpatrick at quarterback than they are right now with Heinicke, and they should be thankful for that, because if they had any other team's backup quarterback, if they had Mitchell Trubisky, if they had Colt McCoy, if they had any of these teams, and with the lack of how good the team is talented, but they've not had a great season. But they're not like the Cardinals, who have studded talents and stuff like that, who Colt McCoy comes in and can still play good because their team is just that talented. That's not what Washington is. If they had a guy like Colt McCoy come in, they would not be winning games nearly as many, and they haven't even won that many with Taylor Heinicke. So they should be thankful for that, and I believe they are. And I think that Taylor Heinicke is going to be, if not a Washington football team player for a long time as their main backup, he's going to be somebody's main backup for. He is now solidified another 10-year NFL career, because people know he can come out and play, and he's only 26, 27. So I think he's going to be an NFL player for at least another 7 to 10 years because of what he's been able to go out there and show on short injury notice with the Washington football team this season. And that's it for this episode of the podcast. And again, this was in honor of Thanksgiving, what every team was thankful for. Go check out the Dynasty Index, and make sure you come back next week, where now we're going to flip it to Christmas, where I gift wrap one prospect to every team who perfectly matches and fits what I think they would want. Some of them may be realistic, others maybe not. But I'm going to go through and be Santa Claus for every NFL team and gift them one perfect prospect for them. So this week, Thanksgiving, next week, Christmas. I'll see you then.